time ticks by, still I try.
If you've seen any of my videos before, you may have just noticed that there was no clip at the beginning with something funny happening like there is in my Walking Dead, Green Hell Split video, and that's because nothing funny happened because this game is not even close to finished. Now, if you don't know what Project Demigod is, or you don't know the creator's plans for the future of it, you may be thinking, well, obviously, it's an indie game, it still needs more time to be finished. But the creator's pushing for this to enter 1.0 very soon. So, as usual, I'm going to get into the good parts of the game before I get into the bad parts. And this game does have a lot of good parts, but it also does have a lot of bad parts. Now, this game currently has 10 powers, and the only one you've seen me use so far, in the gameplay you're currently watching and the gameplay you've seen before, are the Spider-Man powers, or the web powers. These are extremely fun. It 100% has the best Spider-Man powers out of any VR game I've ever played. Even better than the official Spider-Man VR game, which, it's not really that hard to be better than the official Spider-Man VR game. Now, it's not just better than the official Spider-Man VR game, it goes above and beyond with, Spider-Man immersion. It gives you so many options. You can pretty much, fully customize your Spider-Man experience. Whether you want, to swing like Spider-Man, or if you want to use them more like grapples, where you go into a building and it pulls you towards them. It just does it so well. Now, I think it's important to mention that this was all done by a single developer, which means I can't really be too harsh on it, but I feel like I can critique some of his choices. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to talk about the good, but I think that's just an important note. The game does an absolutely perfect job at making you feel like you are in a Spider-Man movie. There's effects when you fly through the air, and the way you swing, you can just feel it. Now, you don't really have to be a Spider-Man fan to enjoy this. I'm not really personally a big Spider-Man fan, yet I have so much fun with this game. And the physics for the objects and the enemies are also really cool. Now, as you can see, I'm using one of the Spider-Man powers, which is create web lines, and I'm just stringing up a van, because, why not? You can pretty much anything Spider-Man does, you can do in this game. Now, if you're a superhero or a Spider-Man fan and you're looking for, a Spider-Man simulator, this is your game. Now, I've heard there are other good, Spider-Man simulators. I've heard Battleglide VR is one of them. I have not played the game, so I can't recommend it or not recommend it. But I'm just gonna get back to talking about this one. Now, you've probably noticed I've only talked about the Spider-Man powers so far. And in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that there are 10 powers. And that's because the other 10 powers, the other 9 powers, aren't that good. There's fire, electricity, water, rock. There's a bunch of stuff. There's weapons you can use, but they're not very good. Now, I think this, the Spider-Man stuff, is kind of where the good ends. You may remember that at the beginning of the video, I said this game was made by a single developer, so you may think I would be cruel for making fun of the game, but I don't feel like that's the case, because from what I can see, he thinks that this game is close to completion. How close to completion, you may be asking? Well, 1.0 was supposed to come out in February. Now, that didn't happen, but that still means he's pushing for 1.0 to be out as soon as possible. I'm going to put the official roadmap up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about, but this all adds new content, which is great, Everybody loves new content, but from what I can see, it doesn't really address the issues that the game has currently. What are those issues? Well, they're issues revolving around what makes a VR fighting game a VR fighting game. Now, it may be obvious because of the shadows, but this was captured on a PC and on the best looking map that there is. Now, I'm not really going to get into graphics because I don't really care. He isn't really advertising this to PC players. It's obviously on PC, but this is mainly just for Quest users, which I don't really care about. But the problem with most of the maps is that they're just assets bought off the asset store. Now, that's not a bad thing. A lot of games start with assets being used off the asset store. Blade and Sorcery, for example, it pretty much used 100% store-bought assets at the beginning, but they've slowly been replacing that, and I'm pretty sure every single store-bought asset is going to be replaced by the time Blade and Sorcery reaches 1.0. The store-bought assets give the game a very, very inconsistent feeling. Now, you're looking at this one map right now. It's obviously very, cartoonish and blocky. Well, I have my menu up right now. But when you get back to it, it's very cartoonish and kind of blocky, which isn't bad, But then some of the other maps are just, as realistic as it can get. And it creates this kind of divide, and it just feels odd. Now, it's not just the maps that have store-bought assets. As you can see, pretty much all of the enemies are store-bought, and they also look very inconsistent. Like, some of them, like the monks, they're very realistic, while the robot isn't as realistic, and, it just gives this feeling of inconsistency. And I feel like it's just not right to announce 1.0 of your game while it feeling this inconsistent. Now, another point I want to talk about is the combat feels so janky. Now, in the roadmap, it says there is stuff he's gonna do with the enemies. He said just enemies in general. So maybe this will be improved on. It doesn't specifically say it, so I'm sorry if if that's what he means. But from what I can see, the combat, it's enjoyable, but it's jank. It needs an overhaul or something, and it doesn't feel 1.0 worthy. Now, I just want to clarify what my idea of 1.0 is, and I feel like 1.0 is when every main base of your game feels smooth, where every main base feels like it works, where everything fits together, not perfectly seamlessly, but it fits together smoothly, well enough. And at the current state this game is in, it does not. Now, of course, we still have that final 1.0 update that will most likely fix some of the things wrong with this game. Some of the things, even I've talked about in this video, but I'm pretty sure it will not be able to fix most of the problems that are present in this game. It will fix smaller things, but it won't fix the main problems. Now, pretty much what I've said in this video is that this game is not ready. We have a developer with a good idea and good intentions that can pull it off, but instead of him focusing on one aspect and getting it down as good as he can, he works on one idea, and instead of getting it the best he can, he just moves on to another, which may work for a time, but in the end you're going to have a bunch of half-baked features that you will inevitably need to fix. So with that, I just want to thank you guys for watching. I have more videos like this talking about VR games on my channel. I hope I can see you there. I post every Saturday and Sunday. Bye-bye.